This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC 301. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, my most confident picks, favorite underdogs. We'll talk Degen, props of the night, and then finish it out with the parlays. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video as well. Last card, the lock for UFC Vegas 91 ultimately turned out to be a complete fumble. Ryan Spann got dusted, but I'll tell you this, I had a bad inkling after weigh-ins, and if you watch my Friday weigh-in recap show, I did say post weigh-ins I like Carini Silva a lot more as a lock. Now that's not me backtracking the lock by any means, but it is letting you guys know, check out that weigh-in show on Friday, because occasionally, not often, there's times where a fighter just comes in onto the scale and you know that they have a high probability of looking less than what we've seen in the past. Now this week's lock, because of what went down last week and what went down at UFC 300, I went for a lighter weight class, first and foremost. And also, I'm going dog lock this week. I think I got to snipe out a nasty underdog that I think is going to pull it off, because I've been hitting some nice underdog picks these past couple of cards. And I want to keep that momentum swinging and take advantage of it with the dog lock. So this week, we got the dog lock. Without further ado, the lock of the week.
Fighting out of Paris, France, William Jaguar Gomez.
William Gomez to outwork and outstrike Gene Silva for 3 rounds. I got him to win a decision here as my underdog lock this week. I think Gomez's technical striking from range is going to be a substantial factor. You're going to see Gene Silva trying to swing big shots and put that pressure on William Gomez. And I think getting frustrated by Gomez's ability to move and counter strike. Gomez is 6 foot tall, Gene Silva at 5'7". So we have a substantial range difference between these two fighters. And Gomez is not just a decent puncher, he has very nice kicks. Now, when I say decent puncher, I'm not talking about one-shot KO power. Gomez is more of a technical counter striker who has good hand speed. He lands clean punches for sure. Maybe not the heaviest thudding shots, but stinging strikes and very good movement are going to be a massive key to victory, staying away from the brawl with Gene Silva. Silva's mentality here is going to be backing Gomez towards the cage and trying to turn this into a bit of a phone booth fight. Whereas if you're on the Gomez side, you know that space is his best friend in this matchup. Thankfully, I think he has a massive footwork advantage and is just technically the superior striker between the two. Now, when you look at Gomez's UFC run, we got to give some respect here. 3-0 inside of the UFC. Yes, maybe not the most high caliber names throughout that run, but still 3 UFC appearances. And on the opposite side, Gene Silva beat Weston Wilson, who's Stephen Wonderboy's little bro, who's way worse than him at fighting. Not nearly the level, just comes in with karate. He's more like the Beverly Hills Ninja level of striking as opposed to Wonderboy. Yeah, Gene Silva knocked him out. Of course he'd knock him out. This matchup here against William Gomez, I think, at least on paper right now, bad matchup. William Gomez from distance is going to be a hell matchup, hell to deal with. He's going to be very tricky to touch, and I think that lateral movement going is going to be just what Gomez needs in this fight. Just what the doctor ordered is strikes from distance and movement, and I think a frustrated Gene Silva loses a competitive 3-round decision. Slight plus money right now on Gomez at plus 105. I do think that the over rounds is kind of what you'd expect between these two. Let me quickly bring it up here. The over rounds for this fight is currently sitting at minus 155. I think the over rounds actually makes a lot of sense at minus 155 for these two. I believe Gomez to get it done on the judges' scorecards. The official decision prop line as well is currently sitting at plus 225. Going decision win. Gomez, underdog, lock a dog, ride with them. And I think, unfortunately, the barking of Gene Silva is not coming in handy here. He's losing to a slick underdog striker in William Gomez. That is this week's lock. Let's talk about my most confident picks on the card. Now, a lot of these most confident picks, unfortunately, this week are not money lineable per se. Now, one of them, arguably money lineable, that would be Mitabek Otabay. I considered making Orabai the chalky locky this week and just going with the minus 250 for like a safer side play. And he is a very high confidence pick, but something pulled me towards that Gomis side, and I felt it's dog time for UFC 301. And I look at the most confident picks with Ismael Bonfim, with Mitabek Orabai, Caio Baraiho, and Michel Pereira. I think all have great chances to win the fight, and I really am highly confident in all of these fighters getting it done. If you were to parlay them all up together, I'll tell you right now, it will range from plus 120 to plus 130 for a mesh up of all these guys. Now, looking at them individually, you really can't do much with anybody besides Mitabek Orabai getting it done. Now, Bonfim to get it done via knockout. I will bring up the props and most likely methods of victory for all of them. Bonfim should dust Vince Pichel. Looking at the odds, it's plus 175. I think there's a real chance that Bonfim is tapping that chin and putting Pichel's lights out. I think it could be in the first or second round. He's still an exciting and explosive prospect, and you can't write him off because of a loss to Benoit Saint-Denis, who proved to be pretty savage, even in his loss to Dustin Poirier. So I still have a lot of faith that Bonfim is going to emerge as a fun top 25, top 20 type lightweight fighter with exciting striking and finishing ability. And a 41-year-old Pichel stands no chance. Now, Mitabek Orabai, minus 250. I have had more difficulty really confidently calling the method of victory for the simple fact that Elves Brenner is not a guy that's been finished. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. And Orabai, I think, by decision has a likely shot here. Plus 135, Orabai to win by decision is my official pick. You can go reaching, looking for a submission or a knockout prop, but if it's a knockout, Elves Brenner's got to be slugging it out with him on the feet. And Orabai, I think, even though capable in the striking, is going to be most comfortable tying up, taking this fight to the floor and shining on the ground and controlling a lot of this fight. So Orabai, he is minus 250 is the favorite. Moneyline side, unless you're throwing some chalk down, not super playable, but listen, better than 5-1. Next one on these most confident picks is another very wide one. That's why I threw the parlay out at you right away. Around the minus 625 range for Baraiho to beat Paul Craig. I think there's a high chance that we go over a round and a half, which is minus 205, which is weird though here. Is fight going distance is plus 180. So there's an expected finish. Could Baraiho sting Paul Craig up and knock him out? I think no. I'm leaning no. I know that Baraiho has decent striking, but he's not heavy-handed. He's a decisionator in the UFC. His only submission finish is Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, who's not a good grappler by any means. Paul Craig has tremendous grappling. Even though it's not to the level of Baraiho, I think Paul Craig at the very least could survive. I think Baraiho could be live for a submission finish, though, so I will read it off. It is plus 200. Third round submission has a nice ring in my ear. It's currently plus 900 for the side of Baraiho. But decision will not surprise me in the slightest, and that's why that money line parlay piece becomes more what I imagine betting with this fight here. Now, looking at Michel Pereira, I think he's definitely going to get a knockout win here. If somehow Pereira is able to beat him, I think I'll fall out of my damn chair during the live stream. I'd be shocked. Pereira's minus 650 through the money line with a knockout at just minus 120. Now, first round KO for Pereira, which I think is a high chance, is plus 225. But you get juicier line if you got second at plus 425. Either way, I think Michel Pereira inside a distance, specifically Michel Pereira knockout. I think Pereira is going to be a sitting duck to big shots, and I think Michel's on his way to the top 15 in the middleweight division. He's surging right now and, deciding to move up to 185. He looks unbeatable, especially against a guy outside of the rankings. Like, I'm not even considering these unranked guys to be able to give Michel Pereira much difficulty. And Pereira, who's 2-3 in the UFC, all losses by KO, ground and pound in one of them, but still KO nonetheless, he's taking an L here. We're going with Pereira for the knockout. Those are the most confident favorite picks regardless of betting lines. Now, I do want to talk about some of my favorite underdogs on this card. Decided to lock the very close money dog of Gomis. Now, looking at the wider dogs of the week, we have Steve Erceg and Jack Shore. Some of you guys I know hate both of these picks. But hear me out for a second. When we look at Steve Erceg, I broke this fight down in depth, and I have that video. I'll link in the description. But talking about it right here, I think he's got a very good chance to beat Alexandre Pantoja, and I believe in my heart of hearts that he's going to be the world champion come Saturday. He's plus 165 as the underdog here, and I think he's got a great chance to pull it off. Sub is plus 1,200. You're reaching more for the sub as far as looking at the line, but I think you could catch Pantoja later in the fight and potentially lock up a club and sub. Could win a decision for sure too, but I think Steve Erceg getting it done plus 165, very live underdog, and I expect the transition of titles coming Saturday. Now, Jack Shore, he's plus 140. How he gets it done is jabs, man. But he's got to follow it up with a big right hand on Brito. If you can keep Brito on the outside, keep him guessing with strikes and sting him just a tad, I really think Jack Shore can win a hard 3 rounds. Brito is going to be looking to close distance and bully Jack Shore, but Shore is a very technically sound guy. At one point was 16-0 with a ton of hype on him. I think that he's going to find his footing here at 145 pounds and pull off a big upset here with Brito. Brito, though he's an absolute menace and a monster, I personally have my doubts about his actual technical skill. And somebody like Jack Shore, who I think seemingly might be able to eat a better punch at 145 than 35, taking better shots from Brito and then jabbing him up, striking from range, making this a bit of a scrap, but also coming out ahead with technically better strikes and accuracy. I really think that you can beat a pit bull like Joe Anderson Brito, and I'm going to go Jack Shore plus 140. I do have to say, seriously though, there would be less confidence on Shore than Erceg. It's just because of the high tier potential that I see with Erceg, as opposed to Shore, who could definitely go out and show out. We have to have a little bit of hesitancy, more so than a Steve Erceg, or even especially more so than a Gomis, who's an underdog, simply because 145, new class. I think he finds his flow. I think the skills will come to shine. I think he beats Brito, but just some honesty about confidence levels. Now, those are my favorite underdogs on the card. I do want to look at some of these Degen props of the night. We'll bring them up on screen here and check them out. The first one I will bring up is Mauricio Ruffi, who was close to being a confident pick, but I don't know. I just felt the need to keep him out. I got the knockout prop, though, currently looking at minus 125. So not as juicy as I would have liked to seen for a KO, and it's not necessarily super Degen when it's minus 125. So we kind of got to dig into round propping. Ruffi by second round knockout, if you try to Mystic Mac it, is at plus 450. First round plus 220. I think there's a possibility that there's a feeling out process in the first round, and then Ruffi finds the kill shot in the second here. So second round plus 450, Degen-ish, and I think it's worth a call here in this matchup. Now this one, Alessandro Costa and Borjas, is an over rounds. Only minus 120 for the over. I actually see this as a good competitive fight. I'm picking the side of Costa, but I see it as a matchup that goes to 3 rounds. Both guys have moments in the fight. Over 2.5 minus 120 to me seems worth a touch. And now another one here, Jose Aldo to get it done. No, rather not get it done. Plus 132 if he does. But Jonathan Martinez is minus 150 on the opposite side. Over rounds, though, minus 260 seems highly likely. I know Aldo said he's coming for blood in this fight here, but I believe Jonathan Martinez and him are in more of a technical striking affair that goes the full length, 15 minutes, and I think minus 260 for an over rounds ends up making a lot of sense. Now, maybe not as Degen as some would hope, but, you know, we got to keep it somewhat realistic with the calls. Even for the Degen props of the night section, I can't get delusional with anything here. But I do think that that second round KO for Ruffi around that plus 400 range is pretty smooth. I think the overs are going to end up hitting. I'm pretty confident in this prop section. And I do want to jump to this week's parlays to play. Let's set something up here. Now, I have everything in front of me. And first things first, I'm going to set it up with a near even money, high confidence parlay. Looking at it, we're going to put on our slate Michel Pereira, who's currently a massive favorite. We can see if we find a nice line for him, minus 599, but you're not going to get there everywhere you go. Barajo, and then also on the prelims, Mittebek order buy. This one right here sits at minus 110. I think there's a high probability of this minus 110 coming through. I'm going to call this the safer parlay of the week, and I do think that we're going to end up catching a W with that one. Now, If you want to go through an alternate route, maybe you're like, yo, I really don't like those calls. I want to do something a little bit different, but I still like where your head's at with Mittebek or to buy. So I'm like, okay, no problem. If you still like or to buy getting it done, who's a better value with the most confident picks, Rufy, or to buy, and Petrino, who could be called a high confidence pick for sure, plus 157. This is a good alternate. I don't know if I feel it's as safe, but still on the safer side of things for sure. Now, I want to bring a kind of adapted version of the original one up, but add a little bit of steam to it. So we're going to bring Mittebek Orabai back on the lineup. We're keeping Orabai in. We're going to also bring Pereira back. We're going to also bring Baraiho back. So that's our minus 110 line from earlier. But we're going to add the underdog lock of the week, plus 292, William Gomis. And then we're also going to add the over rounds in our first fight on the card, which is Costa and Borjas. This one here brings us to plus 641. Now I'm going to freestyle it and quickly add Rufy to bring you into plus 1,000 territory because I needed to do that for this one here. That's plus 1,053 if you add Rufy in. But without him, you still got a pretty fucking snazzy line to look at. Another one that I got that I wrote down here that we're going to bring together is going to be a bit of a savage call. Rufy is going to be in it, so we're bringing Rufy back on the lineup. And then from there, with Rufy, if we can get it together, we got Rufy, okay? And now we're going to bring back Baraiho, who seems like pretty sure thing this weekend. If you put those together, you got minus 122. This is a good alternate as well, but not where I was going with it. Orabai, plus 155. Another one. Could be a great alternate just with these, but if you want to add more steam to it, we got the possibility. You throw underdog Gomis on your call, and you throw underdog Steve Erceg. Now you're in the plus 1,200 territory. Obviously, when you hit on all the prelim fights, all the main card fights, and you get to the main event, and you got Steve Erceg as a dog, you're going to be sweating your ass off, and you might be terrified with your heart pounding beforehand. But I got a good feeling that our boy Steve Erceg's taking the belt home. So Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi type shit. You guys know I'm repping heavy on the Aussie this week, and I'm feeling very good about Steve Erceg. I'm feeling pretty damn good about the parlays. If you guys are watching this show, but you haven't seen my weigh-in recap show, I'll tell you guys, I give it a high recommendation because I do feel like I have a better sense of things even following the weigh-in. So make sure you guys tune into that on Friday. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of this week's Best MMA Bets. I appreciate everybody for consistently tuning into the show. Smash the likes. Let me know some of your favorite bets on the card. Drop a big W in the chat to boost your algorithm for your boy if you got nothing to say. Subscribe if you're new. Keep it locked into the channel. MMA Experts, daily content, dropping the heat every single day, and I can't wait to give you guys more. So thank you guys all so much, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.